This is not financial advice. The views of our guests in this podcast episode don't represent Web3 Philippines, but are a way to have an open discussion about Web3, blockchain, and technology to widen our horizons.
It's like one of the hurdles as a solutions designer or some sort of if you're a technologist is one, you have to understand how it works, right? If you're just going to use it just because you want to, you can use it, then that's not really a good. Like, you need to be rational behind it, and if you have developers like that, if you have builders like that, right, then you're just gonna end up with a bunch of solutions that doesn't really work, right? That doesn't really make sense. It's an innovation, but it's gonna take some time, because there's always gonna be another side of the coin, right? There's always gonna be someone who doesn't want it.
Hi friends, Zab here again. So in today's podcast, we will be touching in how does the Web3 revolutionizes the way we do things today, and why people like you and me should care about it, right? So if you're not yet familiar about what we do here at podcast, we typically talk about Web3, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, blockchains, and all of these related technologies in a chill and a fireside kind of manner, and be able to share and shed a light on some issues or topics and parts of Web3 in which may be not clear for everybody, or for beginners and for those who are trying to navigate through the Web3 space. So feel free to follow us on whatever you're hearing this podcast in, and be able to join our community, as we will be having more of this kind of initiatives, and also more events and initiatives and online workshops coming in very soon. To start off our discussion tonight, before going on to points that we will be tackling here in our podcast, Sir Alvin, maybe you could give a little bit of introduction about yourself, if you're currently building something, and what you do, as of the moment in the Web3 space.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Zach, for that. So, for everyone, my name is Alvin, and I am a solutions architect and a software engineer for Protocol Labs. They're basically the company that invented IPFS, libp2p, and Filecoin. So IPFS is essentially the tool that most of you guys are using for your NFTs, for your digital assets. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. And that's essentially what we do at Protocol Labs. And that's primarily my sort of expertise as well on that storage side, on decentralized storage. So I've been in the space for 6 to 7 years now. So I started in the blockchain space around 2016, very early. And I started with just reading through what blockchain is and what sort of technology, what's the hype about it back then, 2016 to 2017.
Yeah.
And then I've gone through that phase of ICOs, right? 2016, 2017, 2018. And then the blockchain tech as a service, wherein people are trying to look for use cases for it outside cryptocurrencies, 2019, 2022. And then the invention of decentralized tech stacks such as IPFS and all other blockchain implementations and EVM sidechains. So I've sort of have a good experience in terms of seeing these technology evolve, and it's really good. It's been a fruitful and a very very fruitful and in a way exciting as well venture to go to, right? So before I sort of joined on the blockchain and Web3 space, I'm a software engineer by profession. So I've started working with software since I graduated from college. So I sort of and then my expertise before I jump into this Web3 and blockchain space is I'm an enterprise application developer, mostly working with enterprise companies to build their applications and build their software, right? So and then when I discovered the Web3 space, or sort of blockchain space back then, I was really fascinated about the use cases, like a digital binary data that's immutable and it's you won't be able to tamper with, right? And to me, it's a very compelling use case back then, and that's the reason why I was sort of interested to look into it further, and that's why I'm here. I'm here in this space right now. Yeah. So Yeah, I guess like what I'm doing on Web3 right now, as I said, like I'm with Protocol Labs and I'm building a bunch of products that's primarily focused on onboarding data to the decentralized storage space. So when I say decentralized storage space, is the decentralized storage network, which is the Filecoin
Yeah.
network. So if any one of you are familiar with Filecoin network, it's essentially a network of storage providers. So it's actually a chain as well, a blockchain as well. But
Yes.
instead of using proof of work or proof of stake, it actually uses proof of space and proof of
Yeah.
storage in space time. So it's essentially being maintained by storage providers. Storage providers meaning those who have higher
Nodes.
storage capacities.
Yeah.
Yeah, nodes at high capacity of storage, and then they sort of proving that they have the storage, and then anyone can just upload their files onto the network, and the network is gonna be doing the consensus of picking who are the storage providers that will be able to store your file, right? So it's to me, in my opinion, it's the most decentralized storage network out there. There's a lot of competitors in a way because you
Yes.
have Rwave, you have
Yeah. I will.
Chia, right? Which is relatively new. But the heart of Filecoin itself is IPFS, which is one of the most mature decentralized storage
Yeah.
node out there, right? So you cannot really ignore the fact that it's been there for for a long time, and it's actually working right now. And I'm actually building something that's actually communicating with the Filecoin network storage nodes, right?
Mm.
Pushing data to it. And to me, it's the most decentralized. It's the perfect way to build or to store data in a decentralized storage networks. It's completely decentralized. You don't really know about the miners, and the miners don't really know about you. It's
Yeah.
completely trustless and permissionless, and you don't have and then if any of these miners goes down, the replication of your data is still there, right? The data that you've stored will still be available on other miners. So it's sort of like it's kind of like a good innovation to have, especially that everyone now is putting all of their data in the digital space, right? So it's good to have a solution that will ensure that your data will always be there, right? No matter what,
Yes.
right? So it's a permanent and persistent storage. So the products that I'm building right now for PL is I guess like I have to summarize that because I have a lot of
Yeah. A
products.
lot.
Right? I have a lot of projects that I'm working on right now at PL. It's interesting because at PL you sort of it's like an R&D and a laboratory type of company.
Yes.
They sort of just gave you the tools like LibP2P, these IPFS nodes, and you have a lot of these tools. It's open source, and then you can just you're free to innovate in a way as long as you onboard data to the Filecoin network. Then you're good. Like
You're good.
that's the thing. That's the main OKR. That's the main goal. That's the main goal of each individual developers at Filecoin network. Build a tool that will onboard data to the Filecoin network. That's it.
I really you're sharing the energy to me as well, and I think with all of the audience. And I really see
Yeah.
how excited you are, especially with what you're currently building in or
Oh yeah.
currently building in the Web3
Mm-hmm.
space as of the moment. And man, we have someone here from IPFS, and I know that every single developer in the space knows what IPFS or
Yep.
what Filecoin is, right? Because if you don't
Mm,
know it,
yeah.
I'm not sure if you're really a developer in the space, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, thanks a lot for accepting our invitation for
Mm-hmm.
this podcast. We really appreciate
Mm-hmm.
having someone here who could share some valuable insights and share some values to our audience who might be interested to go into the direction of being a developer, being a builder in the
Mm-hmm.
space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And be able to maybe get started with their journey as well in navigating to the
Right.
different parts of web. So you
Right.
mentioned,
Yeah.
sir, earlier, explaining through your journey, how did you stumble upon Web3? You mentioned that even before all of this started to go mainstream, before even before Web3 blockchain were starting to gain popularity, you're
Mm-hmm.
already a software engineer and developer back even at Web2.
Mm, yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think our audience would be interested to know, like, what are the difference, right, right? That you could say kind of like made you to stay in Web3 and made you choose Web3 over other industries or other tech trends out there like AI or like all of those other technologies that are available out there. So why did you choose
Right.
Web3 and why did you
So
stay
yeah.
even with all of those challenges?
I did try AI and machine learning. So before
Yeah.
blockchain, so I built some sort of chatbots, and I guess like to me, okay, me, I'm a technologist and I like to experiment with software tech.
Yeah.
So when I started as a software engineer, so my main motivation was like, oh wow, I can actually make an impact just by typing a bunch of codes in the computer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's my sort of like my mindset. Oh wow, I can do this. I can build this. When I learned how to program, that's sort of like the epiphany. Like it's like it's a calling. You know what I mean? Like when I learned how to program, like wow, I can do this. You know, imagine I can create a software that can
Yeah.
make an impact, right? And you know, you always want to do that. I've learned software engineering, and then I've learned AI and machine learning. Of course, not to the extent na I'm a professional about it, but at least I was able to build a chatbot or build a machine learning engine using Rasa. And then after that, Web3, right? And
Yeah.
the reason why I love Web3 is that not really Web3, but the decentralized technology space, right? The blockchain itself, the technology behind blockchain, and the cryptographic technology stack that comprises of it. It's the fact that it's a compelling use case where if you manage to solve the immutability and tamper proof issues of digital data, right? So and like when I was learning about blockchain tech, I saw that we can now create a software system wherein you have digital money, right? And
Yes.
you won't even have to think about if that money can be copied or can be duplicated, right? Imagine
Yeah.
when I heard about Bitcoin back then, it was like, what is that's Bitcoin digital, like the digital coin? I saw what I can copy and paste this digital coin now, right? That's
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
thought, like wow,
Yeah.
wow. So and when I saw about the paper, right, the blockchain tech paper, the
Oh,
Bitcoin
yeah.
white paper, and even the other, right, I saw, oh wow, you can now do this because you now have a platform or you now have this infrastructure that
Where
any
you
computers can
yeah.
sort of vet through who has the proper copy or who has the proper owner, who is the proper owner of this specific data, right? Digital data. So to me, like, okay, Bitcoin is one of the best use case. Like crypto
Yes.
digital currency is the best use case. But if you think about it, the digital currency is just a binary, right? It's just data that's
Yeah, it's
stored
part of
on your storage,
yeah.
right? Right. So imagine having that kind of technology stack wherein it's immutable, it's tamper proof, it's verifiable, and no one can copy it. And then you have this cryptographic proofs that can prove that you are the owner of it in any type of digital data, right? IDs, land transfer data, assets, vouchers, tickets. So imagine that infrastructure, imagine those use cases, right? So that's where I started to like, oh wow, I can actually build something, right? That in the digital space, and I can have a certain level of assurance that this data is not going to be tampered with. That was my wow. Okay, I can do this, and then I saw IPFS. So I'm an early user of IPFS around 2016. When it launched,
Yeah.
I sort of like, oh wow, what is this IPFS? And then I tried it, I got Rabbit, and then I like learned content addressable storage, and I saw the potential of it, like having a unique identifier, a hash that's specific to that content. That's amazing because you can sort of like combine, right, the blockchain, the immutable aspect of blockchain, and then the cryptographic hash that's generated by IPFS, and combine them together, right? So now you have this system where you can store information and you can use the chain ID or transaction hash to identify the hash of the IPFS data, right? So it's to me it's fascinating it's a fascinating use case, a fascinating combination of this technology, and yeah, that's sort of like why I'm really motivated just to build something in the Web3 space, because there is, there is a use case, right? The technology is
Yes.
there, right?
Yeah.
It's just that right now we're sort of like in the middle of transitioning, right, from designing systems that is primarily Web2 heavy, and now into like fusion, like combining them together, like a fusion, right? Web2
Yeah.
technologies and Web3 technology.
Web3.
So like to me, yeah. So to me, it's not really a versus kind of thing, like Web2 versus Web3. It's more like using Web2 tech and Web3 tech
Yeah,
together,
three at the same time.
right?
Yeah.
yeah, at the same time, like together form them because Web two, like most of these Web three apps, right? They're still using Web 2 tech stack, right?
Yeah.
Like you're still, I mean, for example, NFT storage, NFT storage, and Pinata, they're still using AWS. Like I
Yeah.
can see it. Right?
Yeah.
I can see what they're using it. Like so they're sort of like creating a decentralized. They're still using centralized like entities or centralized not entities, centralized
On back.
tools, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then on the back end, they're using Filecoin or decentralized tech or
Yeah.
IPFS, right? So it's a combination. It's always a combination of that. And I think it will get to a point wherein eventually we'll get to a point where the infrastructure of Web3 infrastructure will be as competent as Web2.
A web.
And eventually we'll have designers, we'll have solutions designers, solutions architects who can, okay, now I can create a solution. I can design a solution wherein it's very Web3 agnostic,
It's
Web3 tech stack, right? Not so much Web2, and Web3 anymore. But we're not yet there. Like there's a
yeah.
lot of like solution. There's sort of like there's a lot of solutions out there that still requires Web2, right? Web2 technology stack. So to me, combining these two together is the proper way to do it, right?
Yeah, I think it's typically like contrary to the stories that we hear commonly from people in the crypto Web3 space, wherein a lot of them were onboarded because okay, we invested this amount of money, or we kind of like do trading every day or
Yeah,
every time
yeah.
every single time. It's just parang a new or a fresh story, from someone who is
Yeah,
really cares
yeah.
to build, right?
Yeah. To me, it's all building. Like, okay, I know. I guess I understand the reason why. Kasi money, right? It's cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
if you want eyes on a product, if you want eyes on something, put money in it, right? And then everyone is just gonna, okay, I'm gonna invest, right?
Yes,
So it's all money. So it's actually good in a way because
yes, yeah.
Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, that's the first use case. Like that sort of gave us a bit of limelight, right? On to build on other stuff, right? It's just a matter of like educating people that hey, this is not just about cryptocurrencies. This is also this. You can actually build this. You can actually build ID system. You can actually build a voucher system. You can use this decentralized storage. You can use ZKPs, right? Zero knowledge proof for your own
Zero proofs,
private
yeah.
data. Yeah. You can even do a compute over data, right? Using edge nodes. There's a lot of technological advancement like that's not crypto that's not crypto in this space, to be honest, right? But
Yeah.
I guess like right now most people would care about cryptocurrencies because it's money.
Yeah, I definitely agree that we couldn't really totally discount or discredit the contributions of Web3 blockchain, right?
Yeah.
Especially with regards to financial solutions. And you've mentioned with Bitcoin, right? It's the very first best use case and application of
Yeah.
decentralized technology and blockchain technology.
Mm.
And we see now that this kind of trend also helped with regards to having more people know more about it, because money moves everything. Money kind of dictates the value of something. We
Right.
couldn't really
Yeah.
discount and really agree to that. And the
Mm.
reason why
Yeah.
we're talking about crypto, about Web3 right now. And the reason why there's
Mm.
a lot of individuals who are really interested about it and to learn more about it. And I think
Yeah.
moving forward, it will be great as well with what you've mentioned, sir, to know that Web3 cryptocurrency is a lot more than just about money, or there are other use cases for it. There are other applications to it, even
Yeah.
beyond financial applications and so on. So I really totally
Mm.
agree into that. And I think you've
Yeah.
mentioned earlier like a little bit about your journey on how you get interested, sir,
Mm.
on Web3 or in crypto. So with like Bitcoin,
Mm.
I think I do have like the same kind of thought process way
Same,
back
right?
before, wherein I think like like like
Yeah, yeah.
oh, it's a digital currency, right? So I
Cheap,
could
cheap.
just like
Copy and
create a
paste.
code and then
Yeah.
like have a million Bitcoin now, right? So
Right. Yeah.
I think like most of us like
It's
do
the
have
same.
like the same kind of
We
thinking,
are,
right? Like
yeah, we're the
it's
same, right?
internet because we're
Yeah.
kind of used to web 2 we're in. We could just copy and paste everything out. We
Yeah.
could just kind of save a photo or like take a
Mm.
screenshot, right? And then technically
Yeah.
like we have an ownership of that specific file or data. But
Yeah.
I think that is
Yeah.
something that like what also made you interested about Web3 on how it could like revolutionizes really how we look at the internet right now. And you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
also like one of the interests that you have, sir, is with regards to the centralized storage. So like
Yes. Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to know, like, out of like different parts of Web3, like we have DeFi, GameFi,
Mhm.
why decentralized storage, and why are you like focusing more
So,
into this kind of or side of
so,
Web3?
so blockchain introduced me to sort of this cryptographic proofs that you can do, right, with your digital data, right? And then
Yeah.
you can the digital coin and NFTs and whatever like tokens that are out there. But the thing that lacks, that what's lacking on this immutable aspect of blockchain is the storage part. To be honest, like you cannot really
Yes.
store terabytes, petabytes of data on chain, right?
On chain.
And if you look at the economic side of things in the storage side, we are expect the digital storage is expected. The digital storage demand is expected to grow in zettabytes by
Oh,
2025.
that
That's 2 years from now.
how many zeros
So
would that be, sir?
see, I don't know, but petabytes, but we haven't even reached petabyte yet, right? So to me, I think that's where I'm really interested because that's the use case. Like if you want to
Yes.
onboard enterprise companies, if you want to onboard businesses, people, anyone, they need to be able to store data. Like right now, if I
Yeah.
approach an enterprise company, say, hey, you can use this chain of mine, and then you sort of have you can store your data in there. They're gonna ask question, okay, each of these users have 10 gigs of data or 20 gigs of data. Can your chain do that? So of course, I'm not gonna be
Yeah.
able to say that, right? With a blockchain,
Yeah.
right? So there's always that gap, right, when it comes to enterprise companies and also the blockchain tech. And I think that gap will be solved. Me, in my opinion, I have strong opinions on this. I think that gap will be solved by the decentralized storage part. So if you want to if you want to really make a real impact, right, in this space, if you want to build something really impactful, not just for someone who is sitting at their computer, but for an organization, an enterprise company, you have to like sell them, or you have to tell them that the storage part, the storage story, like they would almost always need a storage, right? Storage capacity. So aside from that, also like I love how IPFS or
Yeah.
how they created how it was created to sort of create a tamper proof and tamper evident data. So there is a technology spec called content addressable storage, which is basically so when you add a file, right, you have a hash. So that hash is actually built by content addressable storage spec, and
Mm.
it's based on the content. And if you look at the like anatomy of that, it actually splits the files, right, by 1024 kilobytes, and it creates a Merkle tree, so a Merkle DAG, right? And then it sort of links together, and there's a reason for that because each of these blocks are sort of replicated across different IPFS nodes or different storage providers. So even if one
Yeah.
block, right, was not was removed, let's say a storage provider
True.
shuts down their data, right, it's still gonna be retrievable from any other miners because you have a block
Yes.
that sits on one node and then another block that sits on
And
another
in the
node,
other.
right? Yeah, and then it also solves the duplication, right? So meaning if say so the for example you have a centralized storage right now. If you store that on a centralized storage, everyone can get that storage. Everyone can get that file on a specific storage, right? And it's going to be the same file. If you have the duplication, if you have a node that has that file and then another node grabs that file, that node will have its own copy of that file, and it will all
Yeah.
replicate to other nodes, right? And then what you have
Yes.
is a collection of nodes that has the same hash, the same copy, the same ID or index, and then anyone in the world can look up that index and grab that data, right? So it will sort of like it can replicate, and it's also verifiable and also highly retrievable at that point. So in the centralized setup, if that entity shuts down, there's no
Yeah.
you won't be able to retrieve
Yeah.
it, right? There's no other way.
Yes.
You can't retrieve it anymore, right? So if but in IPFS, right, if you configure it properly, because in IPFS, right, you can technically create the one node only, and then if you shut down that node, then your file is
Yeah.
gone. But if you sort of create an IPFS node with other peers, right, with multiple peers, or even better, if you push that to Filecoin network. So even if you shut down your IPFS node, just your file will still be retrievable, right?
I totally see the demand currently with regards to the
Mm.
centralized storage, and
Yeah.
even at the overall digital space or technological aspect, right? All of us
Mhm.
or all of the things that we do here in the internet revolves around data, our post and so on.
Yeah.
One of the things that we typically, as builders advocate, advocate Web3 or how we communicate Web3 to people is that it the power now to people to have a ownership towards their data.
Mhm.
And like
Yeah.
one of the examples that
Exactly.
we com-
Yeah.
that we commonly give, and I think maybe you could also give your insights on this, sir, is that
Mm.
like social media platforms, in which I think
Mhm.
this like kind of analogy is kind of wrong, on my
Mm.
perspective at least, wrong in a way, but it doesn't really like conveys the message or conveys the real kind of value on what the centralized
Mhm.
storage provides. So we kind of
Mhm.
using this example to a lot of beginners, wherein we tell them that on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, you post a content, you post a video, you post a photo, and then
Mhm.
all of the things that you put there, all of the things you uploaded there are not something that you own, right? And most of the responses that we
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
are, why do we care, right? Then what, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then why should
Yeah.
we care that they have the authority over those
Mm.
data, right? Then it's okay,
Mhm.
for most
Yeah.
people to still have that kind of mechanism, right? So I think you
Mhm.
mentioned a little
Mhm.
bit, sir,
Okay.
earlier, like more on the point of failures, on how decentralized storage eliminates or limits point of failures in a way that even if the
Mhm.
file was removed in a certain node, it could still be
Mhm.
retrievable by through
People,
other
right?
nodes or other ways, right?
Yeah.
And
Right. Yep.
also like being able to not only have a single authority to kind of censor a single data, right? And
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
it would need like an approval of like everybody or everyone to
Mm.
kind of
Yeah.
like block, kind of like censor a single data, like in which is like contrary
Yeah.
to web 2. So I think we could
Mhm.
maybe if we could shed the light on that, we're in like a lot of people doesn't really know or doesn't really understand what's the
Right.
value of having this decentralized storage. And
Yeah. So I think like I guess I understand why they wouldn't care or why it would be
yeah,
difficult as well to sort of explain that. But the reason the I guess the main solution, the technical solution for that is
yeah,
cryptography, right? So when you have cryptography, we have zero knowledge proof. You can sort of protect some of the private information, and you only need to specify a proof, right?
approve.
That hey, I have this data, but you don't really
You
need
don't
to,
really know what it
get
is.
all my
yeah,
data. Yeah,
yeah,
you don't know what it is, but you do know that I have it,
but
right?
yeah,
That's basically ZKP, right? You know that I have it, the ZKPs, and some of that concept or that aspect is sort of hard to also explain to most people,
yeah,
right? Right.
yeah,
Yeah. So that's also like one of the key industry. One of the industry that I'm also working on is the SSI industry, the digital identity is SSI, and I'm sort of like combining SSI and storage as well. But in the SSI security model, right, self-sovereign identity, you sort of have like a cryptographic ownership of cryptographic proof that you have ownership of something, right? Similar to your private key on chain, right? When you have this token or when you have this NFT that's encrypted with this private key, and as long as you have that private key, that means you can sign the transaction. You can sort of sign something that will allow you to prove that's yours, right? So
that's
like for the like social media aspect, right? So some people don't really care, but found that you have to sort of give them an example wherein it impacts their lifestyle.
yeah,
Like I guess like self sovereign identity, right? So it's a we I always like give an example wherein you need ownership or you need cryptographic ownership in life threatening scenarios. Not really life threatening, but important scenarios or crucial scenarios. Like
yeah,
let's say a credit card, right? Or mahack nila yung tin mo, mahack nila yung SIN mo, right? So
yeah,
if someone managed to get your TIN number or your SIN number or anything that a government identity, right? Then they can technically if they're savvy enough, they can technically impersonate you or maybe sell
yeah,
your identity to somewhere, and identity theft, right? That's a real issue. Identity theft is costing billions, honestly, yearly. And it's costing a lot of pain, a lot of families. Like imagine yung identity mo is gonna be used to open a bank account and then a credit card,
yeah,
and then it's gonna be used for loans, right? And all of a sudden you have this credit score. You have
yes,
this negative
yeah.
credit score because parang you didn't pay it,
You
then
don't,
hindi ka
you
naman,
don't,
pero hindi ka
yeah,
naman ikaw yung nag-apply, hindi ka naman nag-apply for a loan, right? So
yeah,
imagine that, right? So people need to understand that, okay, in the Facebook, okay, yung Facebook example, post it, right? They don't care.
They
But if
don't
that
care.
happens with your credit card, with your TIN number, with your SIN number, with your, they would care, right? Kasi
Yeah.
like they will start to care. Kasi, oh wow, okay, it's a real issue if I post this, right? Especially now, right, that everyone is going digital. Like everyone,
Yes.
like not a lot of users are savvy, right? Some of them upload lang na upload, they don't really care, they don't really, they don't know, they parang sometimes they don't care, right? Hindi nila alam, nandun pala yung SIN nila or nandun pala yung TIN nila.
Yeah.
And then that's like anyone can use that to impersonate them, right? Passport numbers, right? If someone is selling passports, sometimes like there are black markets. There are markets out there that sells passports. So so I think like from an education standpoint, I sort of use those use cases talagang crucial because that's real issues, right? I mean, not to like this social media example, but social media example is like para picture like I mean even I like I don't care right? Kasi like pero if you post credit card information or passport, right? ID, then wow, okay, that's
I would care,
social, right? And that's what it's all about. Like we need to focus. To me, I want to focus on like this hard issues, right? These issues, like these things that that can really negatively impact someone's life, right? I wanna solve that. I wanna be on that team wherein I'm solving that, right? As opposed to parang yung kabilang side. So I always see it like parang ganun, like parang cyber security hackers, right? You have black and white hat hackers.
Yeah.
So there's always gonna be like black, right?
Black
and then
and
white hackers, right? I want to be on this other side, the white hackers, wherein I want to build like solutions. It's gonna help other people. It's gonna make people lives easier, right? So it's so I think like that's my sort of take on that. Like just from an education standpoint, we sort of need to to communicate the real issues, the hard issues, the most important issues of why this technology exists in the first place. Because if we always sort of use the example of NFTs, JPEGs, pictures, right, and all, parang most enterprise or most businesses won't even like they won't even like look at it, like even the government, right? Kasi parang okay, JPEGs, NFTs, that's fine, right? But pero if you're gonna talk about IDs, credentials, right?
Yes.
Like the very digital ID that you use on your day to day, you're gonna turn some heads and they're gonna look at it and they're gonna look at it and then parang they're gonna take it more seriously.
I definitely agree because most of the time, diba, we could talk all day regarding all of these technologies, right? But it all comes down to how well we could explain the advantages of using it, to people. And I think, citing an example that that we could kind of like put the situation on their mind that this kind of technology could solve something and that they would need to, kind of look into it or maybe start hearing about it. And I think because personally, I do use that social media example sometimes to kind of like explain how kind of Web3 revolutionizes the internet, right? And kind of changes we do things online. But at the end of the day, they would care if it somehow impacts their life and, doing posts or something that not a lot of people would, really.
And I'm not saying it's wrong naman yung example. It's just that parang, it's a legitimate example. But if you wanna turn heads, right? Like, if you don't want them to ignore you,
yes, totally.
Do this. Give an example. Give an example.
Yeah, totally. I think there should be really, the change on how we could convey and communicate the advantages of it and why should people, care about it and look into it and be able to have the situations on their mind that,
that's why people should care about Web3. I mean, in my opinion, those kinds of use cases, not just people, but also builders, developers, just such as myself.
Yes.
To me, I think we need to focus. Like me, we need to focus on, how can we use this to really solve like real problems,
real
issues, right? So that's why I care so much because. A good example also, right, sa Philippines, in the voting system, right? can definitely replace the voting system with a more decentralized approach, right? Rather than a
Yes.
centralized voting system, right? That alone, right, can also change an entire country. Like if you think about it, like if
Yeah.
you build something, a very a voting system, right, that the government can use, then that's that's amazing. That's because yeah, it's more impactful to the every lives of the Filipinos,
Yeah.
right? So the only problem there is the government itself, because some of them, if you start to explain them
Yeah.
that, oh, this is how it works, they're gonna say, oh, how can I
Okay.
tamper?
Yeah.
How can I tamper, right? So
Yeah.
no, I cannot tamper because this is it. But
We
if you think
cannot.
about it, yeah, the thing about it, the solution is there, right? It just takes some time, and it will take some time for them to realize that this is the way. But the solution is there. We are there. Like we know how it works. Like you and I, like the Web3 Philippines, we know how it works. It's just a
Yes.
matter of time that we will implement it. Maybe not in the next 5 years or
Yeah.
10 years or so, because yeah, government politics. But imagine if the next generation, right, the next generation of leaders, right, if we sort of educate the next generation of leaders, this is how it works, then maybe eventually, all of these, when they become the next leaders, then they will know the importance of this, and then we will be able to shift, right, innovation of this Philippines, right?
Yeah, I think we're already diving deeper on giving the impacts of Web3 in terms of
Yeah.
maybe having it as use cases on the things that we do in the
Mm-hmm.
daily living, right? Maybe for example
Yeah.
voting, right? And maybe like government documents, right? So
Well,
but I think
yeah.
maybe if you could also give more of like those kind of examples that maybe could kind of change the way people see about the space, or maybe could kickstart the thought process of people towards why should they care about this technology and why should
Mm.
they start looking into it.
Yeah.
How could this technology impact their daily life? Would this be something that I'll be using in terms of buying a ticket on cinemas or on concerts, something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, technically, like those use cases are possible, right? Because tickets are sort of identified
Yeah.
vouchers, right? They sort of have system IDs, right? But yeah, absolutely. Like if they wanna, I guess, like for me, like it's sort of again, I'm going back to the most impactful applications, right? That they can use, right? So that they can build using this technology. So imagine the framework. Imagine, like, if I sort of educate people, I would want to educate them that, hey, like, I would tell them that, hey, you have this infrastructure where you can put data in, and then you can
Yeah.
sort of, that data is gonna be immutable. It's gonna be there. It's gonna be verifiable. It's not gonna be tampered with, right? So you can all sorts of build any data centric applications that you have. So say for example, yeah, one example would be the voting, right? So if you have voting system, right, that's completely decentralized and has a level of authority or ownership, right, that can be imposed, right? So that's a good first step, right, for us to have a more fair voting, right, in the
Yes.
Philippines. In the Philippines. So a good example also is, and I'm not sure if this is gonna be an issue, but BIR reporting, tax reporting.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine that if blockchain is a ledger, right? So if you sort of use it as an immutable ledger for all of these tax reports, then you would have a more accurate. Technically, government money should be for the public, right? For the betterment of the lifestyle of each and every Filipinos, right? So that can be a good tool. Like that, it can be used for the money that should be going to the project, should be going to the improvements, should be going to charities as well. So that's one also use case that they can that can be built. ID system, right? A digital ID system, which is that's much more, because most of the digital ID systems right now are using centralized services, right? Centralized authorities or centralized federated services. If you have this infrastructure wherein you can say that, hey, this ID belongs to this specific
Yeah.
owner, and these are the data that's tied to this ID, then you will have a more fair, human-centric, ownership-centric, ID system. These are like groundbreaking, like, generational solutions, right? That you can actually build with Web3, right? So that's why I keep saying out to other people that Web3 is an innovation, but it's gonna take some time, because there's always gonna be another side of the coin, right? There's always gonna be someone who doesn't want it. but in the end, if you look at it from perspective of like just the solution, right, and how it
Yeah.
impacts humanity, Web3 is a positive footprint. Web3 is a positive, it's positive. It's something that we can all build on, right? So yeah.
I think most of us, builders in the space, developers, really kind of have this vision for Web3, in which is Web3 is right, inevitable. And such time, it would not be this year, it would not be the coming week or the coming months, but maybe 5 to 10 years from now, we could see a lot of this technologies already rolling out, and we could see that this already
Mm,
been integrated in our daily living. It's just time
yeah.
that at some point our IDs will gonna be maybe on the blockchain, or some of the
Mm,
things that we do in daily life, like voting or whatnot, are already something that has already like an integration or involvement of this various
yeah.
technologies. So like you mentioned, sir, that this kind of revolution would really take some time. It's not like a
Yeah.
click of a finger and then we're here, right?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
here. Everything is decentralized already. Web3, everything,
Mm,
even eating or drinking is already Web3. So I think would be interesting to know your vision for Web3,
mm,
maybe 5 to 10 years
mm,
from now. How do you see Web3 changing lives, or how do you see Web3 is already like a part of our daily life?
mm,
How it been able to be used in everyday
mm.
transaction, everyday
Just like
activities, and so on.
I guess like to me is I in a perfect world or in an ideal scenario,
Yeah.
if 5 to 10 years from now, and if everything is really goes well, maybe 20 years from now, we're gonna have a more fair, decentralized, distributed systems or solutions, right? Systems not really like systems that build or apps like that. It's more of ownership, right? Humans, us, having a better infrastructure or a fair infrastructure in terms of in terms of everyday decisions. So but again, it all depends on how are we going to build the solutions in its phase, right? It all depends on how are we going to create all of these all of these solutions right now, right now. It starts with right now. So we need to sort of set the tone how to properly build solutions, because some of the people, right, they're just gonna build solutions or build decentralized apps just for the sake of it, and they're not gonna build it properly, right?
Yeah.
So as for me, like I think like it starts with us here with Web3 Philippines, everyone who is familiar, to sort of educate people on how to properly use the technology, how to properly design technology, how to properly build an app, right? And again, like 5 to 10 years from now, if we sort of build on top of this infrastructure and also have the same mindset and also have the same sort of vision of this technology, then I mean, to me personally, I think we'll have a more democratic, not really democratic, but more fair approach in our day-to-day lives, fair decision making. We will have a more better choices in terms of what we want to work on. Open market, right? An open infrastructure where anyone can just do whatever they want, as opposed to like sticking to whatever they're doing. So I think it's just really for me, it's just having a better lifestyle and more fair distribution of things for the other people, like in the long run.
I think you give like a very great point earlier, sir. With regards to like if we were gonna be building this, we should be building this right? Since we
Yeah,
see that
yeah.
there's a lot of projects, a lot of startups right now that tends to
Mhm.
integrate these technologies just for the sake of integrating it, or just for
Just
the
for the
sake
sake
of
of
like
integrating it, right? Yeah,
bragging it, or like screaming about
yeah.
all of these jargons and so
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. So I think like for us to really build something meaningful for the next 5 to 10 years,
Yeah.
we should educate other people on how to actually build it properly. Because imagine if someone built something and then they say, okay, rug pull, right? Or whatever, like
Yeah.
whatever they did, like whatever, like, there's gonna be a negative connotation or negative, impact on the things that they built the wrong way, right?
Yeah.
So for us, you guys are also like, you guys are experts. So I think it's up to us to sort of educate them and also audit them. Like, is this the proper way of doing things? If they do it in a malicious manner, then it's just going to negatively impact our industry, right? In our work,
Totally.
right? In what we are sort of advocating. So
I totally. I think you know putting such effort in educating and advocating, building in the space the right way, would really
Mhm.
positively impact in our future, because there's really a lot of negative things going on, a lot of fear, a lot of doubts going on because of
Uh,
different different companies going bust in
FTX,
recent
right?
months, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
FTX,
FTX, FTX, and then
Celsius,
Luna,
Terra
Celsius,
Luna,
right?
right? A lot
Yeah, so
more.
they all see if you look at it, yeah, they've all contributed to
Yeah,
negatively
yeah.
on the space. But at the same time, you have to think about like, I mean,
In
yeah, we
their
get to that point. So yeah, they've also contributed to the to the advocacy at some point, right? Right. So see, it really is just education, right? It really is just us telling people how it works, right? It's not just a fad. It's not just some hype.
yeah,
It's a real platform that can be used by others to make a positive impact for
it could
themselves. So
solve.
it's a
Yeah,
yeah,
it could solve
it's all
something. Not
something.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's not
not
only like
just
in
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
only
not
like
just
an
JPEGs
investment
or not
video.
just crypto.
Yeah, during this time, this is really the best time to build things out, because mostly quiet. Right now, even there's a little bit of upside currently on the market. We could still say that we're currently on the bearish, the bearish side of things. But as a builder, does it really matter if coins go up, or if
Yeah,
all of these
listen,
things
yeah.
happen? You just keep building, right? You don't really care if
Yeah, keep shipping.
yeah,
Right, build stuff like like read the market, read what is
yeah,
happening, and then build stuff
build.
on it. Right. It's not like you cannot really stop them from from doing so, even if without this innovation.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
The positive impact of having that address outweighs far more than not having
Then
it.
like, yeah,
I mean, like it's yeah, it should be an option for someone. It should be an innovation that we need to make available for everyone. And yeah, I mean, to me, I think that makes sense. I mean, from if you have a way to privatize data and still compute that data or still sort of use that data for your day to day without having to expose it on say on chain, then I'm all for that. That's good.
I definitely agree that the advantage outweighs more than the negative, because
Always.
definitely in
Yeah.
everything and every aspect there is always a bad actor, even in Web 2, right? We cannot
Yeah.
really kind of like totally 100%, no matter what
Mm.
regulations, what implementations we do, bad actors could find some ways on how they could find a loophole, or work around, find a workaround on it. So I think on that point, that we see that privacy could become a concern in regards to maybe in the future, wherein it's already well adopted and all of these transactions are
Mm.
available on chain, in which maybe in the future, right, it's easier for you
Mm.
to link a wallet to an individual, right? And now we have
Mm-hmm.
ENS, wherein you could like have a sort of a nickname or like your name
Domains,
on it, right?
names,
Or domain names on your
vanity.
address. But maybe in the future, it would be
Yeah.
much easier for you to identify that, okay, this wallet belongs to Alan,
Mm.
or to Zab or something,
Yeah.
right? Then
There
yeah,
are technology that does that right now.
yeah,
Like I'm actually thinking like those privacy stuff wallet addresses. You can sort of create like a solution to link those to a specific ID, right? If you're building an identity system, you can yeah. There are technologies that exist now that can do that.
yeah. I think, speaking of like properly building these technologies out, making sure that it really aims to solve something that exists, right? Something that
Mhm.
is real, a real issue or a real problem. And I think
Yeah.
right now, as mentioned earlier, we're kind of seeing like a lot of projects and startups like just implementing it just to slap those jargons and terminologies to the face of people,
Yeah.
that this is Web3, this is
Yeah.
NFTs, right? It's Web3.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's
I
it's the
mean,
big thing. So like
yeah. I
on our
mean,
end,
yeah.
like we just want this to become there are some like concerns with regards to the current UI and UX of like most Web3 applications. Like we talk about stealth addresses and so on, and this
Mhm.
like terminologies and mechanisms like could maybe like add a little bit of complexities to the way like people understand Web3 and blockchain. So like
Mhm.
on your end, sir, like how do you think we could improve in terms of like user interface and user experience in Web3 and the overall space?
So I always thought that I always think this way, right? So right now most people are Web2 users, right?
Yeah.
They know log in with Google or sign up with Google, sign up with Apple, right? And
Yes.
see, like if we want to sort of merge them together, right? We wanna onboard them, right, to the Web3 way of things. Um, we can always create a solution, right, that can sort of fuse these two together, right? Log in with MetaMask or log in with Google account,
Google,
right? So
yeah.
I would say that for if you're gonna sort of build a front end, right? Make sure that you always have like sign up with email, sign up with username. You're the typical way, the
Yes.
Web2 way, because that's how
Yeah.
you onboard people, right?
Yeah.
And when they're in, that's where you're gonna sort of tell them, okay, there's a more secure way, of logging in, and this is how to do it. The connect, right? Log in, and then you're gonna educate them how to connect to MetaMask, or maybe on your interface, you sort of like have instructions on how to embed their wallet onto their account, right? So I mean, it's sort of like trying to rope them, not really rope, but just pull them in, right, onto your app, and then educate them when they're in there. Because most people right now, they know log in with Google, right, or sign up with Google,
Yeah.
because that's
Totally.
how. Because most of
And,
them will have a Gmail account, but they won't have any MetaMask wallet, right, address, right? So I would say onboard them using the traditional way, and then educate them when they're in, right? Because if you upfront tell them
yeah. Yeah.
that, hey, you have to have MetaMask, they're not gonna log in. Like, oh, I don't have MetaMask, so I'm just gonna close
Oh,
this tab. So
yeah.
I don't know. You will be
Connect
able to
wallet.
sort of invite them. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, no one, like not everyone has a MetaMask extension, right, on their
Correct.
browsers, right?
Yeah.
Right? So especially the mobile phone users, right? The Safari browsers, right? They don't have that. So you need to have an option for Web2 users first. Invite them in and then educate them once they're in, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
I definitely
yeah.
agree because if we could check right now, like most Web3 applications or like the apps
Connect
or and
wallet, right?
platforms like Connect Wallet, like what does it mean like on
Connect
a
wallet.
beginner standpoint,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
creating a MetaMask is maybe like an easy thing for most of us to do, but on the beginner side, they will be faced with all of this
Yeah.
jargons like seed phrase, private keys. You need to save this,
Rephrase,
like
right? Right.
this
Yeah.
is something
Yeah.
that like
So
is very overwhelming for like beginners in the
yes.
space to even
Yeah.
just to get started on something in the
Mhm.
space. And I think
Yeah.
what you've mentioned on like providing a way wherein even those Web2 natives who are already familiar with uh ways of logging in, and I think also like at a tip for those startups who
Yeah.
might be looking forward on focusing for their acquiring users or customer acquisition,
Mhm.
right? Making it easier
Yeah.
for people to kind of get started with their platform. So
Right.
there
Yeah.
will be
Yeah.
like
Because you
still
need
an
to invite
option.
them.
Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, you need to invite them over. You need to sort
Yeah.
of, yeah, still an option for them to log in using the traditional way to make it easier for them.
Yeah.
Once they're in, just give them an incentive to do more steps for them to create MetaMask wallet, right?
I think like some the individuals like tend to like use this term Web 2.5 because we know that in order for us to bridge, Web 2 and Web 3, it's not that, we
Mhm.
kind of slap them already with all of the Web 3 kind of
Yeah.
complexities and overwhelm them with all of this technicalities.
Mhm.
So like
Yeah.
there should be like a bridge wherein we could be able to slowly or
Combine.
slowly introduce
Right.
them and combine those
Yeah.
technologies, and maybe for
Right.
now
Yeah.
have both of those coexist at the same time in order for us to really push
Mhm.
for mass
Right.
adoption.
Yeah. So to me, it's never a versus. I think I mentioned
Yeah.
earlier also. It's always like a fusion or combination of these two technologies. Like me coming from Web two, like I'm a very Web two
Yes.
guy. I came from Oracle. I worked for Oracle and IBM, and very Web two
Yeah.
companies.
Web 2.
And so, yeah, so I mean, to me, when I look at it now, right, and the tech stack that they're using and the tech stack of decentralized tech, it's not really a replacement. It's an
More an
innovation.
improvement. Yeah.
It's an improvement. It's an improvement, and it really depends on your customer or the solution that you want to build. If you want to combine them, right? If your solution is good enough to just build on text on Web3 tech stack, right? If you have enough
Yeah.
tools, right, that will be good for your users, then good. That is really great. I mean, you can just build it. But if you have like massive users, number of users, like for example, if you have let's say a banking system, even or maybe a more complex system, then you should at least consider combining Web 2 and Web 3, right? It's all about building the proper solution, right?
Yeah.
Properly
Totally.
like using the technology stack. Like don't to me, I don't like I guess like from one of my advice would be like, don't just use Web3 because you're sort of like a Web3 maximalist, right? Don't use that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
be so be agnostic, right?
Correct.
Look at Web2, Web3, look at other things, look at like this, and then sort of put it on your in front of you, and what's gonna be like, and then just combine them together, right? What can I use this for? Is this the right way to do it? Is this the right component? Is this the right technology stack, right? So yeah, that's how I would say. Yeah, I would do it.
Yeah, I guess we have mentioned, a lot of possibilities that decentralized storage, Web3 could, kind of help and support building in, and also, what things or what kind of things should be improved on in the Web3 space and should be worked on
Mhm.
as we go through our journey. So I guess it's also important, maybe if we could kind of shed a light on like what could be like the challenges or what could be the hurdles that we might encounter as we
Oh,
push through and as we work on those kind of things.
yeah, that's honestly,
Yeah. Yeah.
innovation is always going to be a disruption, right? I mean,
Yes.
if you're innovating, it means that you might disrupt some technology or technology stack out there.
Correct.
So, and when you lack the education or you lack the understanding of tech, it can be very counterproductive in a way. Meaning, like, say, if you're sort of learning, if you're sort of creating an innovation, you need to educate yourself how to properly use it, not just use it just because you want to use it, right?
Yeah.
And I guess like one of the hurdles as a solutions designer or some sort of if you're a technologist is one, you have to understand how it works, right? If you're
Correct.
just gonna use it just because
You,
you can
yeah.
use it, then that's not really a good. Like you need to be rational behind it, and and if you have developers like that, if you have builders like that, right, then you're just gonna end up with a bunch of solutions that doesn't really work, right? That doesn't really make sense,
Yeah.
right? So so that one, and then for of course education is really important for my opinion in my opinion, educating the people how to properly build it because we don't want them to build stuff that doesn't really make sense.
Correct.
One issue, I guess, like another hurdle would
Yeah.
be, I guess, like people who are, yeah, the rug pulls, right? The cryptocurrency, the cryptocurrency scams, and the ones who are raising funds and then they end up not really not really
Delivering.
not
Yeah.
really like delivering their stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
those are because see that this unregulated space it's very unregulated, right?
Correct.
You can launch a project, you can market it, you can hire a marketing team, you can do guerrilla marketing, and then and then you raise your funds, and then you don't have
Yes.
any legal liability, right? On the money, right? And then you'll end up with people who lost their life savings, who lost some of their funds, right? That should supposed to be for their children or supposed to be for their family,
For sure.
right? So like these are like things that will still exist. I think it will still be there. People will still try to make money out of it. They will still try to take advantage
Yeah.
of other people who are attracted to a quick,
Which
rich scheme. Yeah. So it's but my I guess like for us to really like it all goes back to just educating other people how it works. Just letting them understand that this is what it is. This is how other people are scamming other people. This is how malicious players are, doing their scams, and they should think twice if they want to invest on some products that they want to invest, right? Because the investment part is sometimes it's if people have money, they don't really want to control what they want to do with their money, right? So
Yeah.
they will try to invest because they are so attracted to the
Yeah.
concept of crypto, right?
Crypto.
Quick rich, yeah, quick rich scheme, right? And then so you would have to the middle ground for us, at least for those who knows this stuff, is we need to tell them that hey, this can negatively impact you. There are other projects that are very similar to this that happened before,
Yeah.
and and tell them that oh, this is how you can prevent it, like, and you need to do your research on how to lower to lower the chances of you being scammed, right? You need to do your research, do your audit, you need to check the proper websites,
Yeah.
you need to check the teams, you need to check the people behind it. So lots of stuff, right? So it's so like I guess like for me, hurdles, those are the hurdles, like the ones are the scammers, the scam artists, the ones who are just who just wants to attract people to invest on them and then do their ICO, right? So one, the solutions architects or solutions developers who doesn't really know how to build it and then they just build it, right? So
Yeah.
second is
Totally.
the scammers, the scammers, the malicious artists, right? The marketers who are trying to take advantage of people who are less educated in the space,
Yeah.
right? So I think those two are in a way to me dangerous. They because they can impact our careers, our careers, and also the impact some of the family's life savings, their money, their lifestyle, and all. So I always believe that it's really up to us to fight this scheme, right? And then advocate the proper use and the proper understanding of technology.
Yeah, and I think it all really comes down in educating everyone about
Yeah.
the space, right? Builders,
We
like
are,
essentially
yeah,
builders,
yeah,
and
yeah. We are in this era right now, or we are in this
yeah.
sort of middle ground right now, or sorry, we are in this journey where we're still educating people, right? At
Correct.
one point, we're gonna have more people who are more educated, and then we're gonna have more people who are gonna build more impactful applications. But right
Yeah.
now, I the the group of the number of people who are like who understands this is really it's not that high, right?
It's
So
small
yeah,
contingent.
we're still in the education space, right? We need to still educate people. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people might be wondering on like a best place for them to be educated about the space and the Web3
Mm.
market. Like, do you have any like preferred community or resources in which maybe they could get start? They could get started learning, be educated about the space, and learn
Mm.
more about it.
Web3 podcast. Web3 Philippines.
Noted.
Web3. Yeah. Follow the gospel of Warren and Christian, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and you guys, yeah. So I guess for the best place to start, right, for anyone who wants to learn blockchain is um, there are a few books that I would recommend, to be honest, but most of the content that they have is already available online.
Online.
There is this book called Blockchain Revolution, which is really like a good introductory to blockchain, to cryptocurrencies. It's very cryptocurrency. It's not a very blockchain heavy book. The topic. The very use case would be mostly cryptocurrencies, but it tackles all of the possible use
Yeah.
cases like
Yeah.
self-sovereign identity, the
Logistics.
markets, the logistics, and all
Yeah.
supply chain, and also it's a very good introductory to the blockchain tech. Um, my the For identity, there's a self-sovereign identity by Manning, which is one of my favorite books. So it's a good book for someone who wants to learn why SSI exists in the first place. Like, what's the disadvantage of a centralized and a federated identity system, and what does SSI solves to solves to sort of solve the gap, the issue of other centralized identities. And you have Proto School. So there is a website for it's sort of like a course for protocol labs for IPFS and libp2p. For this is for developers who wants to learn how to store data and sort of create understand the anatomy of an IPLD, a link, interplanetary link data, and why it's important for to ident for our digital for any digital data that's out there. And then of course, if you want to learn ZKPs, follow Dan Bonet. He's the sort of the he's the father of ZKP. He invented this very is his this and he's one of my favorite. He not really invented, but he wrote the spec, and I think it is existing now. It's called the functional commitments, which is a very it's sort of like an improvement on how we do zero knowledge proofs. If you're learning ZKPs, follow Dan Bonet. And then if you're gonna learn smart contracts, Udemy is there, blockchain, council. So I've learned all of this, all of my coding experience. I've learned all from Udemy. I also just by coding, just by following tutorials. But yeah, I mean, for developers, the best teacher is really experience. It's really different when you're reading something and when you're applying, right? Between reading and applying. You read something in theory, it makes sense, good.
Yeah.
But if you want to really jam that theory onto your head, apply it, like code it,
Yeah.
like build a script. Like don't use ChatGPT or what. Just code it. And then and then experience it, right, line by line. That's the best teacher. I find that very useful. I mean that's about it.
Yeah. I think, most of the resources now are available online. We could definitely
Everything Google.
navigate through different resources in whichever topics it may be that you're currently learning at. But, just like what Sir Alvin mentioned, don't get stuck on tutorial hill. Build something, try something out. From
something,
what,
ship something.
Yeah. Even if it's not good, even if it's shitty, even if it's right, even if it's kind of like trashy looking or shitty looking kind of application. At least you have been able to get started on building. So I think maybe to summarize all of the things, right, that we have discussed in the entirety of this podcast. Like if there will be something that you would want our audience to take out or to take as a value from this podcast in 2 to 3 sentences, what would that be?
Progress, not progress, not perfection. So I mean, if you want to build something meaningful in this space, and if you're afraid to start, right, because there's a lot of complexities, cryptographic technologies, like that. Always know that there are tools out there that makes these things easy, makes it easy to understand, and you don't really need to learn them. To do anything and have a deep understanding of them. All you need to do is just pick the things that you need to do to sort of to build your solution, to build what you want to build, right? So don't I always say that progress not perfection, because I always want to have progress every day, like in terms of learning, in terms of making an impact. And I don't if you're gonna aim for perfection, then that's you're just gonna stall, and then you're gonna get frustrated for yourself for not being perfect, right? So if you're gonna progress every day, you're gonna get to a point wherein this is almost perfect, right? At some point you're gonna do that. So I guess like for me, I mean, for those who are learning, there's a lot of opportunities in this space. There's a lot of jobs as well, opportunities to build stuff on the space. Not a lot of people are educated properly to build stuff in this space, so there is a massive opportunity for you to make an impact. There are lots of articles, tutorials, books, even Udemy videos to learn from. And if you're really interested, these learning tutorials are free online. There are tools out there. Back then, when I was starting, there's no Morales. There's no third web.
Because there's
It's just, yeah, there's no,
yeah,
I think, we started 2016, 2015. There's no, right now, I saw Morales, right? And it's just really,
yeah,
wow, it's easy. You just click a button, then you have a node. Wow.
yeah,
Like, I have to set up Ganache, Truffle,
yeah.
and Remix on my
You need
machine,
to
and
do it
then,
on your
I have to set.
on your own. Yeah,
Yeah, so if you want to build, just tools are there. If you want to, and for those who are like really looking into this space, this is the perfect, to me, in my opinion, this is the perfect space to be in if you want to make a positive impact. There is a lot of work, there is a lot of things that needs to be solved in terms of privacy, in terms of protecting digital identity in this space. And like I said earlier, there's always black and white, right? There's
yeah.
always an opportunity. There's always going to be a malicious player, but this is a good space to be in, to be a white hat hacker, white hat hacker. Be like,
Right.
create something meaningful and create something that's gonna be useful for the people.
Yeah, a white
Yeah,
hat builder.
yeah, white hat builder, right? Yeah. See, yeah, yep, that's it.
Yeah. So if there will be like something that you want people to remember you for, what would that be? Or if you could describe yourself, in 2 to 3 sentences, what would that be, sir?
Describe myself. I guess like I don't know. I guess like, so I'm a pretty boring guy. I'm a boring guy, so I want to be remembered for building, for helping humanity to onboard their data right onto a decentralized storage network. Like, I want to be known as someone who protected their identity, their digital data, their digital footprint, and make them accessible, make them accessible anywhere, and anytime. Right. So it's a, I think it's a good. I mean, it's something that I'm trying. I'm advocating. I'm still trying to do that right now, but that's something that I want to be known for. To just build stuff and create this infrastructure for storing massive amounts of data. I guess, like, I want to be known for, properly to advocating proper use of technology as well.
Yeah,
Like, if people wants to, I believe that the technology, even if the technology is there, if you're not really going to use it properly, then it's not going to work. I mean, it's just going to be give a
yeah,
negative impact, right? Instead of a positive impact, a negative impact, right? So I would love to start advocating, and this is honestly why I'm like sort of also want to be part of Web3, because I think this is sort of my opportunity to do that, right? To sort of educate other people, share my experience as well,
yeah.
and hopefully, will learn how to properly build dApps, right? Web3 tech stack on Web3 tech stack. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, sir, for once again accepting our invitation for this podcast. Before we
All
conclude
right.
this, it would be great if you have any kind of, final remarks or last words or any plugs on the events or initiatives you're currently working on. Yeah, feel free to take on the floor.
Oh, right. Yeah. So I guess, like, I have lots. I mean, I read something earlier. Like, I have some sort of projects in Filecoin Foundation right now, and it's an early product, and I was really hoping that I would be able to invite a few users who can use it. So I don't know, like, if anyone who wants, sorry, if anyone wants to learn libp2p, IPFS, Filecoin, feel free to ping me because there is a lot of, I mean, there is just a lot of opportunity in learning this technology stack. Like, a decentralized storage is a very agnostic solution. Like, and I believe that this is gonna be a good start, gonna be one of the good starting point or good industry to be in. So I guess, like, for me, if anyone wants to sort of build want to learn libp2p peer-to-peer technology using libp2p or IPFS technology stack, they can just ping me.
Ping me.
Ping me on Discord, right? So
Yeah. What
else?
would be
What
the
else?
best way to reach you?
Discord channel. I think we have a Discord, right? Or
Yeah.
in Telegram, I'll be there. I'm very active in the Filecoin Foundation Slack. If you guys are there. So I mean, my name Alvin Reyes. As you can see it there. So I'm doing all of the releases, doing all of the customer support, tech stack, because that's how we work in TL. Like we're an open source company, right? So we have to engage other people to build with us. So if you want to reach out, I'm always there. My team is always there as well. So, yeah.
Got it. Thanks a lot, sir, for accepting our invitation. For this podcast.
Thank you.
It's really great to have a real builder here. Talking about the technology and innovation side of Web3 and how it could revolutionize the way we do things here in the internet.
Yeah.
So I think
thanks
that'll
for
be
inviting
it.
Me.
Yeah, I think that'll be
thanks
it
for inviting me
on
as
our
well.
podcast.
Yeah. Right.
So thanks a lot, sir. I think that'll be
Thank
it.
you.
So for everyone listening, for everyone listening on our podcast, thanks a lot for tuning in. Hope that we see you in our next podcast, and feel free to check on us on our community, and also feel free to reach out, Brother Alvin, if you have any kind of questions, concerns about IPFS. And I know if you're a developer, you will definitely need to deal with it at some point. So feel free to talk to another Filipino builder who is currently focused on decentralized storage and IPFS. So I think that'll be it for our today's podcast. Thanks a lot, everyone, and hope to see you in our next session. Cheers.